Ralph Sbeih, a Lebanese national, is a civil engineer and environmental planner with over 12 years of experience, including a decade-long tenure as a project manager in construction works. Holding a master's degree in environmental and infrastructure planning, Ralph's academic and professional focus includes environmental governance, waste management, circular economy, and green economy, with a particular emphasis on Lebanon. Currently, Ralph serves as consultant and researcher at the Hariri Foundation, where he is actively engaged in sustainable consumption and production and circular economy initiatives in Saida. He's also providing technical consultancy for solid waste management projects in Akkar and collaborating with Berytech on stakeholder mapping for Lebanon's waste management innovation cluster. Since 2019, Ralph has been the strategy director at Plastic Lab, where he plays a key role in defining the company's vision, fostering partnerships for plastic recycling, and conducting workshops on solid waste management and circular economy practices. His commitment to environmental sustainability is evident in his multifaceted efforts to drive meaningful change in environmental planning and sustainable development. Please help me welcome Ralph Sbeih.
Thank you. First, now you know me. Thank you for the introduction. I'm not going to talk about waste, so don't worry. I'm going to talk about why you, architects and designers today, are moving towards a sustainable design. It's easy to talk about sustainable design, but sometimes we at Plastic Lab, we can see designers, they don't know why they're doing it. I'm happy to be here because of my expertise to explain you what is the problem. In this session, I'm hoping that you would understand the impact of climate change, how designers can shift and help mitigate and adapt to climate change. There's a term, transition management. I would love for you to understand it, and I will tell you in a few moments why. Then talk about circularity, but it's not going to be circular economy, but I will be focusing on circular cities and the framework behind it. Finally, talking about redesigning, rethinking every single point in our lives, in our designs, and possibly talking about trends and future, and finally having your questions. But first, the problem. Since the last century, we grew exponentially, moving from 1 billion to 8 billion people. As you can see from this NASA imagery, most of the land that is habitable is used, which means we have a lot of resources being used for our consumption on a daily basis. Our food, our water, our energy, our transportation, everything. And this is one of the main points of the environmental crisis. It is not related to climate change, it's just resource depletion. On top of it, because we're mass consuming, we're mass disposing as well. On a daily basis, on a minute basis, there's a one truck dumping plastics in the oceans. I hope after this session you do research some points related to plastic pollution, related to the plastic islands that you can find in the Pacific Ocean, in the Atlantic Ocean. We call them gyres. And not only because of that, but many other environmental degradation, we have a biodiversity loss. And the numbers are staggering and triggering for us to wake up and look at what is going on. This movement is not recent. It started in the 70s when the environmentalism awareness started. But it's been too late for many points. We have soil degradation all over the world. As you can see on the bottom corner map, the red areas are soil degraded lands because of mass agriculture. On the right side is related to the years that we're losing, either being disabled or losing because of environmental pollution. It's air pollution directly connected to lung cancer, to all of these. Finally, to the trend that we're all talking about, climate change. Well, because of this, we have a rise of CO2 emissions, CH4 emissions, and N2O emissions, which are causing this steep increase in our temperature rise that is leading to environmental degradation even more. We have melting ice caps, we have hurricanes, we have fires. Los Angeles is one of them. Whatever the narrative is, it is because of climate change. We have these heavy winds, and the list go on. I'm here not to tell you that you should be afraid, but I kept it in that narrative. I'm a bit calmer than this. But these points pushed people to rethink how we live, to rethink how we eat, how we use energy, and we're still in the start of this change. But how can design help mitigating and adapting? And this is the question that I want you to have the answer for at the end of this session, so you can answer future clients why you're choosing a sustainable product or a sustainable design in an architectural field. But before going there, Donella Meadows, she's part of the Club of Rome. I would invite you to search the Club of Rome. They're planners, designers talking about how to include environmentalism in our daily practices. And they advocate hardly that we shouldn't look for degrowth. Because if we think about it, we're consuming a lot. So people might think the answer would be, let's stop consuming. But it's not the answer. The answer is to innovate, to really rethink every process. And whenever we do that, we need someone to do it. We need designers. We need architects. And for the past century, we've been going in the direction of imperialism, which is a human-centered design, where mankind is on the top of the pyramid, which led to this degradation. The stewardship behind the book and many other books from the Club of Rome talking about environment-centered design, which means we are designing for mankind, but we do take into consideration every single aspect of the environment around us that serves us, but we serve them as well. And this is where all started. Design thinking and moving to system thinking, talking about recycled product being showcased and not only bought because it's a recycled product. Designers were able to develop a product that is sellable, affordable, and even more beautiful than other products. On the other corner, we have a house that was designed not just like the American style with the grass in front of it. No, we took back the biodiversity surrounding that house, living with the environment, having a green roof for all kind of measures related to heat exchange, water dissipation, fighting flooding, and so forth. We talked about transition, and this is where all policies do come. We're changing from one point to another. I mentioned before that we have the mic. I'm too grounded here. So I talked before about dumping plastics in the sea. And most of them, 50% of the numbers, 155 million tons per year, are simply because of plastic bags and single-use plastic. And this is why we have the ban that is famous now. Everyone talks about it. In Dubai, they want to implement it. In California, they already implemented. And because of that ban, what did happen? There's a gap. People did go to grocery stores, but they don't have bags. So this is where a very simple example where designers come at place. It's a very simple design, but we wouldn't need that design if there's no ban of plastic bags. And this is only the start. Before going into depth about materials and everything, I would love to talk about transition, because this is only the first of many policies that would be implemented in the world in the coming decades. But this is part of transition. And I will briefly explain to you what is transition. those are easy graphs. On the right side, you can see the multi-layered of our communities on an international, national, and local level. And some policies can start from a really international level if we know the problem. For example, the ozone layer on an environmental threat, we stopped the CFC and it went top down. But the bottom up comes from creators, from innovations. And the more we have innovations that are applicable in our communities, the more they can go up the stream. And this is where your opportunity lies. As well, transition, it comes with a price. It's a very long process. Going from one point to another, from one paradigm to another, one infrastructure to another takes a lot of time. As you can see on the left side, it's a multi-phase. The pre-development of the environmental transition started in the 70s, whenever people started protesting against cutting down trees. But now we're no longer there. We're somewhere between the takeoff and acceleration, depending on the countries. And today, whenever we talk about what could happen there, the only constant you can see it is change. And this is, I believe, that designers and architects thrive. This is your main goal, until we reach a stabilization. To give you a small glimpse of practical examples of transition did happen, such as the energy. Everyone talks about energy. In Lebanon, before the crisis, we were at the 95%, 97% relying on fossil fuel. Because of the crisis, we jumped to solar panels at the 23%, but we couldn't have this option if we didn't have the transition in energy did not happen 20, 30 years ago because we were investing in solar panels. And I believe we will keep on investing because now we can hear architects, we can hear designers talking about how hideous those solar panels are. And now we can see innovations from technical engineers embedding them in tiles, in roof tiles that can accommodate to certain designers, but I believe you're not really there yet. So you are the agents of change. Here's a picture of, I read this article a week ago about 10 influential designers because I really wanted to give you something accurate. And I've noticed the pattern that whenever a designer is bold or an architect is bold enough to introduce a new concept, it will be adapted. In a couple of decades, no one would know maybe it is because of that designer, but that designer did create this new concept, this new framework. On the left side, Rabia and Nabil, there are practically two designers that at Plastic Lab we collaborated with, but not the two only designers. We have as well, Michel did visit our facility, and we've seen the inquisitive nature of these type of architects and designers. They want to understand every single aspect of our technology. And because of them, we were able to advance in our technology. We were able to determine the gap that we have in our production line, which is still new compared to other mainstream industries. We talk a lot about sustainability, so I had to put this slide to introduce the 70s SDGs if you don't know them. But I would love to focus on number 9 and 12, which is industry and innovation and sustainable consumption and production. Many other colleagues will come talk about circular economy and products that are made from with a circular mindset. It doesn't need to be recycled, and they will, in the circular economy session, they will explain more why. But those two, to me, in a mass consumption world, are the most important. Of course, using the 17th SDG that was added lastly, talking about partnership. We're discovering new materials. As Plastic Lab, and one of the co-founders here, I would say we wouldn't travel this far without designers. They are the ones who pushed us to be the best of what we can do and still learning more. I will go now going away from the technical terms and talk about frameworks. What is a sustainable product? A sustainable product that doesn't need to be recycled only. It will talk about the lifespan, the raw material that has been used first, how we move that raw material. Is it needed at the certain location or another? How do we process it? How do we use it? And at the end of it, we talk about recycling. And a perfect design would be a design that at the end of life, there would be another design for the product. This is my favorite part, not the circular economy. Circular economy, I will not go into depth, but there's two terms, a biological one and a technical one. The biological related to organics, where we regenerate there, and the technical, it's only for recyclables. But this is not my focus. My focus is cities. What happens in a circular city? What does it mean? Well, there's no one true explanation or definition for it. We have Amsterdam, they're focusing more on mobility. And you can see in the Netherlands, people are biking, walking more than any other country in the world. They removed their bus station from centers, they removed roads from centers and replaced them by river in Utrecht. And this is part of their mindset in a circular world. As for San Francisco, their focus is on solid waste. In Paris, it's on food. In Denmark, it's on mobility. And you can search them all. But how can we define it? What is a circular city? What are the components to have a circular city? There's a framework that was developed by Ellen MacArthur Foundation, but used by many other authors at UNEP as well, the RESOLVE framework. The RESOLVE stands for regenerative, where we talk about retaining. We have the share, where we maximize the use of any product. We have the optimizing any product that we're using, its capacity. We have the loop, practically recycling, and this is the only share for recycling. We have virtualize, taking advantage of the technology. And finally, the exchange, exchanging materials that we do not want in our dump sites, but to others, such as the plastic bag. I will give you some examples because the change is now. It is happening. It has been happening for the past 20 years. Novamont is a company in Italy that replaced plastic by biodegradable plastic. Ørsted is a Danish renewable energy working on windmills. Aerofarms, it's in the US. They're promoting vertical farming in an urban level. They are reducing the usage of, they're fighting soil degradation, at the same time increasing efficiency in transportation on an environmental and economic aspect. And finally, AquaCycle, a decentralized system to recycle water. So in an urban level, you don't have to transport your wastewater, but you can recycle it and reuse it again. Share. This is one of my best slides where whenever I study this, I was like, so Uber, how did it start? People, they have cars, but most of the time they don't use it. So they come up with the idea, let's share it. Airbnb, it's the same thing, but for a place. WeWork, a co-working space. Wave, it's a local company. It's a rental-based bike in Lebanon, where you can use a bike and then rent it for a month, give it back, and someone else will rent it. And lastly, Sonnen. It's a really advanced app in a really advanced country, Denmark, where they have excess in energy, and they share it as well. So the concept is pretty there, but we have to have the infrastructure and advancement, and we count on designers. Optimize is whenever we reuse packaging, such as Loop. Fairphone, it's a Dutch company that refurbish phones. They have really good phones at a cheaper price. So they are making sure that we are using to an extended lifespan of the material. As for Loop, this is the only place where, as Lebanese, we are thriving today. It's in the recycling scene. We have Fabric Aid, they work in textile. We have Anine Fadia and Grill working in glass industry. I present Plastic Lab. that we're focusing on plastic recycling, not in an industrial matter, but working with designers to create new furniture, and we will talk about that at the end of the session. And we have modern advanced polymers. They recycle rubber, and Compost Baladi working on organic. If you join all of these without the tin and the metals, we kind of have 70 to 80% of the total waste streams. That today we're only recycling 92%. We're recycling 8%, we're dumping 92%, which is around 4,400 tons per day. Virtualize. Virtualize is nice whenever we can see Spotify where we can put it, or Anghami, or Netflix, or Amazon. They are practically replacing every CD case. They're replacing, as for Gmail, Google, Slack, they're replacing the local made paper use. Kindle, they're replacing books. Some people don't like it, some others do, and some others, they work around it. So instead of buying 50 books a year, you can buy 25 hard copy and the other 25 using Kindle. And this is part of Virtualize. Finally, exchange. Exchange, I have chosen Patagonia and Pangaea that they're using organic cotton, but those three are the most advanced. In the middle, we have the fusion energy. It's still in the early stage, and they believe in 20 years, they will have a good amount of resources, energy resources coming from this technology. And why I've shedded light on fusion and the Hyperloop, because this is how the world is changing. This is how much we're looking in a change of our infrastructural context. And finally, the Tesla, they're exchanging the fuel-based car into the electric one. All of these examples, they talk about rethinking and redesigning. And we saw in the last part, in the exchange part, that they are really rethinking everything for the 20 years, even though they're investing intensively. And whenever I say we, it's China, it's the European community, it's the US, it's every country that is being able to do that transition. As designers, you have many options to work in a sustainable framework. There's the design thinking, there's the system thinking, there's the triple bottom line, which talks about profit, people, and the planet. We're here to design stuff that do make money, that can be used, and at the same time preserve our planet. As for me, I love the eco-design principles where it's just straight to the point. Whenever you design something, you make sure it's an environmental design. My job here now, just to give you some points, some pointers of this transition. The material selection is one of the major aspects of this shift. And now we can see the fibers, revisiting the linen, the wool, even going with banana fiber, pineapple fiber. There's a lot of technology going around mycelium. And of course, the recycling. If you can use a recycled product giving you the same performance, why not? We have some material innovation, and I hope you can wake up on this. We have some replacement of plastic. You can use it in either bioplastic, mycelium-based, beeswax. And on the left side, we're talking about a revolution in the concrete. It's a Hemcrete, where it's a company that is really pushing to replace concrete by the Hemcrete, where it is more energy efficient, carbon negative, naturally non-toxic. It is resistant to flame and water and can last more than 100 years, more than the concrete itself. How rethinking everything and using these kind of information led to us to new designs or new products with a new replacement, such as the paper straw. Everyone talks about turtles and climate change. Well, I don't like that, but the innovation is here now. We have the thermostat, where we use technology to control our energy consumption. We have the shoes used from recycled rubber. We have renewable energy, and finally the electric car. To do that without collaboration is nothing. Microsoft, Apple, and Google, they are all part of RIBA. They're grouping all companies around the world, big companies, to adapt a renewable energy approach. As for Next Wave, it's a group of plastic polluters, IKEA, Dell, HP. And all of them, they're trying to reduce the plastic dumping in the sea by creating an alliance to fight plastic. And finally, it's a local hub, circular hub. Maya Karkour, I don't know, she will be giving the lecture, and she did assemble all stakeholders related in circular economy. I'm going to conclude with some opportunities and future trends. Future trends, I didn't talk about AI because I don't know much, and I'm a bit scared of it, but AI would be one of the best solutions for designers to know how to maneuver around it to have a sustainable model. And AI will be part of every infrastructure project that we're going to have in the next 10 to 20 years, either in forestry, transportation, energy, buildings, all over the place. So this is a future trend that will be surely embedded in design and sustainability. And the one that I love the most is greening the city. It has a lot of benefits to have a green city, not only visually, but in terms of pollution, with the climate change, with the city heat, it would reduce the city heat, and many other options that architects and urban planners and spatial planners should really dive deep in this. As for the opportunity, I go back that you have only, I would focus on the major point, that the only constant is change. And I hope that you will always remember that sentence. If you will remember one thing from this session, is this sentence, that only expect change in every design that we're doing and grasp it. So this is your opportunity. We're not in a stable world where we do business as usual. Always ask a lot of questions, try to understand more what is a new sustainable product is, what is sustainable, is it something, a greenwash term, or really is this a sustainable one? Will it serve in 20, 30, 40 years? Will it be part of this transition or not? We have many challenges. We talked about the opportunities, but yeah, I wrote this slide 5 days ago. We didn't have a president or a prime minister, but I don't know about the political instability, but we are in a country with a lot of crises. And I invite you to be part of this country as well whenever you design something. If you want to stay in this country or any other context, make sure that you understand the context. Many times, we build something, a product, that could be counted as a luxury rather than a necessity in the country, that no one would buy it, or no one would adapt it, if we're talking about designing a building. هلا أحكي بالعربي، هيك الكل شوي بيركز معي على موضوع قريب لنا وكان عبالي أحكي عنه. طلعنا من حرب نحن من سنتين، من 10 سنين أكثر، من 18 سنة، وطلعنا من حرب من شهر. من 18 سنة نحن الحرب خلفت لنا 6 مليون متر مكعب من ردميات. اليوم نحن مع ال NCC عم بشتغل ضمن تاسك فورس كبيرة لنحكي على التوعية اللي نحن قادمين لها. نحن اليوم الترجيحات لأنه بعد في ضياع بعد ما قدرنا نوصل لها حوالي 50 ل 100 مليون متر مكعب. والاتجاه للحكومة السابقة كان إنه يروح على البحور ليصير عندنا نحن another biodiversity loss. ليه عم بحكي عن الموضوع؟ لأنه وقت نكتب policy مثل ما كنت عم بحكي عن transition بنكون عم نحكي نحن عن movement نحن كيف بدنا نروح. بال 2006 ما كان في movement، ما كان في centers هالقد قوية ليقدروا يكتبوا policy brief. هي والحرب كانت ماشية. أنطوان كلاب وآيا كاسكاس مع عدة stakeholders بالUN Habitat, UNDP, دكاترة بالجامعات اجتمعوا مع البرايفت سيكتور، وانا كنت موجود معهم كوني من ضمن البرايفت سيكتور، عم نحكي عن هيدا الخطر يلي رح يرجع يبين علينا من بعد الحرب. ليه عم نحكي عنه اليوم؟ لانه هو ضمن الاقتصاد الدائري. الردميات اما الكونستراكشن اند demolition ويست هن بيمثلوا 1% منهم حديد، 1% منهم بلاستيك، كلهم ريسورسز فيري فاليوبل. في 58 منهم سيمنت و28 26 CMU. هول كلهم بالفيلد تبعنا نحن كديزاينرز ككونستراكشن. ليه عم بحكي عنهم كمان؟ لانه البرايفت سيكتور بالشراكه مع الببليك سيكتور، بالشراكه بامتحان من الكوميونتي، نحن عم نطالب انه هيدا ما لازم بس ينبعت على البحور، في منه فيه اسبستوس، في منه رح ينكب وين ما كان، يرجع ينعمل منه ريل ستيت ديفلوبمنت ما بيمثل المنطقه اللي نحن بدنا اياها. هول الامور اللي عم بحكي عنه اليوم، يمكن البوش اللي عملناها هي بعدها جزء صغير من الترانزيشن اللي عم نعملها، بس بنتوقع من هلا ل 10 سنين بعدها حيكون القوه البوش رح تكون احسن ان شاء الله، ما يكون عندنا بقى حروب. لفسركم شوي عن البروسيس الصحيح كيف لازم يصير بالردميات. بالردميات اول شيء بدهم يتنظفوا المحلات، الاماكن بينبعتوا بالوضع الاستثنائي اللي نحن الموجود فيه، لانه نحن ما عندنا ولا فاسيلتي الا 2 بكل لبنان ما بيقدروا ياخذوا 0.1% من التوتال دامج اللي عندنا اياه. بينحطوا بالبريمينري سايت، ببلش بيصير فيهم تنقيب، بينشال منهم، بنتاكد انه ما فيهم مواد بتضر البيئه. ونحن كمان لانه عندنا ازمه ثانيه اسمها الكسارات، عندنا كثير جبال، يلي بيعمل هايكينج بيعرف شو يعني جبل منه موجود بقى، نرجع تتعبى هنيك. هيدا الهدف من هالبوليسي بريف. بدعيكم كلكم تقروها لتفهموا اكثر كيف an environmentalist بيكون عنده اما ديزاينر اما بلانر اما ان اركيتكت، في يكون عنده نظره ضمن بوليسي يلي هي شوي بوليتكس صارت، بس يكون نحن دورنا كيف عم بيكون فيها. Finally, whenever I was in the Netherlands, I had a professor, whenever someone asked him about what can we do on a personal level, I loved his answer is, in sustainable development, doing little is achieving little. It's a bit cynical, but at the same time, if you think about it, you have to really dream big so you can reach where you want to reach in a sustainable world. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Ralph. I think your intervention today is very, very important on many levels. أول شيء, I think it's the first intervention that speaks about like high logistic and high tech also, and high initiatives. Till now, they had very low tech, no logistics, artisans talking about small initiatives. So it's the first time I think they're seeing what big impacts can do. And also maybe they can see that if they don't take into account this change and transformation you're talking about, they as architect and designer are going to be left behind. Yani if they don't use these as their values and integrate those values in their work, they're going to be left behind because the whole world is going towards this.
I will fixate more on the idea is that today designers are running after this idea. So if you want to be pioneers in your field, you have to really understand why you're doing this, understand the best solutions that there are out there. Because if you don't do that and stick to the business as usual, you will be very far away from the system that is going to change, and it is changing as we speak. I agree.
Also, you're pushing them to redefine the role of the designer architect, because now you have to understand the whole chain of production, from the material extraction till the end of use of the architecture or the products. So this is very interesting. I have many questions myself, but I'm going to see if someone from the audience has some questions.
thank you for this presentation. I have a question about the first, أول ما بلشت presentation, you were saying about something, acceleration then stabilization. السؤال هو إنه why opt for a stabilized solution? يعني نحن we live in an environment هلا where trends are working way more than a stabilized solution, where the market with real estate قلتها آخر شيء aren't they polluting بالmanufacture تبع البرودكت الايكو-friendly product.
أكيد.
يعني is it a stabilized solution that we should opt for an eco-friendly environment, أو مثلا small trends that can work. مثلا حكيت عن artists who opt for an eco-friendly solution that works for decades أو شيء وبعدين بينسون العالم ببطلوا يشتغلوا فيهم. اسكو small trends, small changes that are opting for an eco-friendly could this be a better solution than go for something stable that might not help in another point of view?
I really love the question. فهمت لوين رايحة. This is part of transitioning. بهالسلايد حطيتها قصد لأنه in a perfect world ما في stabilization eternally. Something will come up. يعني عم بيضلوا يتغير العالم. And we call it evolutionary resilience. We as mankind, we don't know how to die. We always want to be resilient to whatever happens around us. فجواباً لسؤالك, those small changes are the pre-development in a transition phase. You do change because there's a problem and you want to solve it on a constant basis. هلا يلي نحن عتلانين همه as planners, I didn't want to go into depth in that, is that change is moving really fast because of technology and everything. So we might not even reach a stabilization, and the ultimate truth and the only truth that everything will be changing. But here we still don't know what is a stable, not stable pattern that we have.
I feel like we will never reach the stabilization point. We should always opt for.
I will give you an example of a stabilized term. In Africa, for example, ما عندهم landlines.
Okay.
Because whenever صار في innovation, نحن عندنا landlines, so للphones. So when we did the design بالأول of cities, we built landlines وبعدنا بنستعملهم لهلا. I'm in some part of Africa ما حتى فاتوا بهالinfrastructure لأنه راحت على stabilization تانية اللي هي antennas. صاروا عم بيشتغلوا wirelessly وما عندهم إياها. So this kind of infrastructural changes بدها تصير. Another example is transportation. Transportation is moving now for slow modes, even though هي كانت قبل slow modes. نحن we revolutionized everything. جانا لاحظنا إنه wait, no, this is not the healthy way that we want to live. So things will change. They will be stable for a while, but then يجي interest. And if you read the book of Lefebvre, بيحكي every generation has their city. Every 20-30 years you can expect the city to have a different shape, different function. السنتر تبع السيتي بيكون محل بيصير بغير محل أما بيتغير. This is why you have to be inquisitive as planners and designers to understand communities كيف عم بيتغيروا. And talking about the micro level, doing those little changes that might impact the national scale يلي might impact the international. نحن بلبنان ما منعيش كيف جدودنا عاشوا. Somehow عم نعيش somewhere in between America, Europe, جدودنا و China. ما بعرف كيف نحن لبنانيين نقدر نعملها بس بالضياع you can see it clearly that there's a different pattern how people live whenever they live 12 months there, but here it's different, and this is part of change as well. And this is where the designer should really understand, and the planner should really understand, the architect really understand what is changing and what needs to be changed to accommodate that change. قلت كتير change, but it is the only constant. I hope I answered it.
You did, thank you.
Car, une question. Okay, I have a question for them. You talked a lot about planners, architects. They are just students till now. So how can they take into account all of this and include them in their project? I mean, practically. Like, what do they have to think about? How they can show it in their project? How can they analyze the context? What are your advices for them to be able to think about all of this and try to integrate this starting now?
If I was 10 years ago, I would give myself an advice and be more inquisitive, to search more around the world شو عم بيصير, what is changing today. And if you follow up news, you will understand أكتر العالم كيف يشتغل, and it plays on two folds. أول fold إنه to be realistic and pragmatic, إنه هيدي السولوشن نقدر نخلقها, بس اللي أهم منها إنه never stop dreaming and plan for a long term. I've been giving several workshops with university students, واللي لاحظناه أنا وcolleagues لإلي إنه because of the country ما عم نقدر بقى نحن كشباب, أما أنتوا أكتر كشباب تطلعوا أكتر من 10 سنين و20 سنة لقدام. يلي بدي أطلبه منكم إنه تطلعوا 30 و40 و50 سنة لقدام, and this is how you build a really nice project that would make sense in 30 years, would make sense in 50 years. Either it's a city or a building.
Okay, so you talked about greenwashing. I'm not sure they know what greenwashing is. So if you could take it quickly define what greenwashing is. Although I think Maya is going to talk about it, but briefly so they can. I
don't want to overstep, but greenwashing is whenever they say something, I'm going to be very simple about this. Whenever they say something is sustainable but it is not, it's just a marketing scheme to sell a product or an idea. It's a lie. Okay.
And they sell something as sustainable, but it's not really sustainable. A lot of brands are doing this, so beware about this. Your question was about stabilization. In other ways. I think, okay, she's asking, even when they're using organic materials, but there's an ethical way, there's an ethical approach to things. She's saying even when they're using organic products, isn't this harmful for the environment since you're extracting...
Going back to the transition, whenever we talk about stabilizing, any product today is not in a stable phase. يعني ما عندنا ولا شيء data enough collected to know, this is the best way to do it. And this is why I gave the idea of transition. This is why I talked about transition extensively. لأنه we are not sure yet. يعني حتى we talk about نروح أكبر بشوي من material, solar panels and windmills. Wind energy. Is it sustainable to 100% or في the extraction اللي عم بتصير? And you can go both direction. Either you optimize this process, okay, we optimize the process, this is the best technology, or we substitute it. And I will give you the example of plastics. Plastics, لتعرفوا تاريخ البلاستيك, it started after the Second War. They used it as a replacement للglass. They replaced it back then لأنه وقت الحرب إذا قوصوا على شباك إزاز الشظايا بيأذوا الإنسان. أما وقت حطوهم بلاستيك بطلوا يأذوا الإنسان. بعدين لاحظوا من بعد الحرب إنه okay, wait, this is super easy to control plastic. There's abundance of plastic because it's a byproduct of fossil mass production. وصار في Tupperware parties. We all talk about the Tupperware اللي هي it's a product, it's a brand. بنسميها Tupperware بس هي it's a brand. And after couple of years, decades, it took 25, 30 years to understand and wait, with the rise of plastic usage, there's environmental threat. And we talked about recycling, which was a scheme of Coca-Cola, and then we talked about replacement. So the train is moving, but we didn't get to the destination of what is the perfect replacement. And this is why whenever I gave the material innovation, okay, here, we have 6 substitute material for plastic, which means we're nowhere near the stabilizing. Because if one broke through, and one, let's talk about mycelium, for example, they have the perfect solution. We don't need to innovate in the other 5. But we don't have the solution yet, and this is why designers and practitioners and innovators, we're trying collectively to break through in one substitution that is entirely sustainable. And yeah, that's it.
Just to continue on this, maybe I would add the same with the SDGs. Can you go back to the slide of the SDGs? When you focus only on environment, yes, you have risk of creating injustice and imbalance. But if you take into account all the SDGs, so you have the social aspect, you have the economic aspect, you have the cultural aspect, and that's why it's important to have in mind all of these aspects and create a harmony between all of these aspects and not focus on only one aspect of them. So cultural heritage is very important. Social aspect is very important. What do you do with the artisans? What do you do with the industries? So creating a connection between all of this is what will make your projects and your initiatives the most fair ones. Before going to I want you to show some slides or pictures about the products you're creating at Plastic Lab. But before going to this, I have one last question, because you talked a lot about virtual and virtualize. And you know that it's a lot of energy consuming, but so I wanted to
Yes, it is.
This issue.
And this is why they're trying to redesign the data centers. Some places they're trying to implement data centers below water because the energy is needed is to cool down these data centers. So this is part of unfinished business related to the companies that they try to solve a problem by creating another one. It might be more sustainable, it might not be, but this is part of the path. That's it.
So, بدك تقول شيء؟
بعرف عنك.
لا هاي رامي بس عم بستفيد انه في احكي واقول لكم انا part of Plastic Lab, so one of the co-founders مع رالف و since 3 generations يعني 3 هن كلنا هن اول ثاني ثالثه اوكي so انه it's so في خلطه so بس انا بدي اقول لكم شغله احكي بالعربي some of you رح يقطعوا لعنا على Plastic Lab وانا بس هيك I'm a biochemist so ما خصني بالديزاين ما خصني بالاركيتكتشر كلها بس things that we have noticed هي شغله كثير مهمه ما خاصه باللي رافع بيحكي عنه the most اذا بدكم اشطر ناس اجوا لعنا اشطر architects designers يلي الهورايزن تبعهم واسع كان عندهم curiosity so Michel is on the top of the list and this is why participating in such events ما عم بحكي عن هيدا الايفنت بس have a curiosity اوكي شاطرين بالديزاين شاطرين بكل شيء بس يكون عندكم فكره عن كل شيء عم تشوفوه بحياتكم. Ralph mentioned so many times now terms or like books or something ما ضروري هن ذاتهم بس يضل عندكم حشريه تعرفوا كل شيء. سو اللي عم بيجوا لعنا على بلاستيك لاب عن جد اللي عم بيفهموا الماتيريال تبعنا مش بس لانه بيعرفوا بلاستيك او شاطرين بالبلاستيك ما حدا شاطر بالبلاستيك حتى انا بس يلي كان شاطرين فيه انه قاريين شيء مطرح ما ضروري تكونوا بروفيسورز بالريسايكلينج او بالبلاستيك بس بيعرفوا بكل شيء بالماتيريالز بالديجيتال فابريكيشن حتى لو ما بتحبون participating تكونوا مركزين بهيك ايفنتس. بس عم بستفيد اقول هالشغله على الميكرو لانه eventually in the future you're gonna be our partners at Plastic Lab and this is our aim having Lebanese partners on board. عندنا كثير اجانب فيهم يشتغلوا معنا بس نحن عم نجرب هلا للجيل يلي عم بيطلع تكونوا اكثر involved بكل شيء. curiosity انا لإلي curiosity is key for everything. حكيم architect designer وكل شيء so بس هيك.
Thanks.
Thank you so much Rami.
Thank you for the presentation ولأنه فرجيتنا كل هيدا اللاندسكيب يلي له علاقة بريسايكلينج ويست يعني ما كنا بنعرف إنه هالقد بيغطي جاب كتير كبير وخصوصاً البرايفت سيكتور. هلا I'm wondering انه نحن لانه كنا مرقين بكرايسيس and thank you for mentioning that كتير قوي البرايفت سيكتور لانه ما كان في public sector عم يعمل اي شيء. هلا نحن بالوقت الحالي عم نعيش مرحله جديده وفي كتير حديث انه في financially مصاري كتير حتفوت على البلد على الببليك سيكتور specifically وحيقوى يرجع القطاع العام، يعني حتقوى البلديات، يعني يمكن كتير في the local governments يمكن هن to lead كتير on recycling waste and doing these sort of initiatives. So ممكن يخلق هذا الشيء نوع من competition بين the private sector and the public sector. So I am wondering if at any point you tried to partner مع أي مؤسسة عامة، مع أي بلدية، مع أي شيء من هذا النوع، وكيف كانت الإكسبيرينس سواء بقلب لبنان أو برا لبنان.
بحكي عن لبنان. لا اشتغلنا شوي، شفت كيف بتصير الأمور بهولندا اللي هي مختلفة جدا، بقطر مختلفة جدا، بس المهم لنا اليوم نحن كلبنانية بلاستيك لاب من أول نهار كان الموديل تبعنا نشتغل مع البلديات، وهيدا كان أول بيتش لنا نحن كبلاستيك لاب إنه to work with municipalities، وهيدي كانت ب 2019. بوقتها كبيناه على جنب هيدا الموديل لأنه كان نشتغل مع البابليك سيكتور ما كان برايورتي لإله هيدا الشيء. بس اللي حزنا له إنه آخر 5 سنين وهيدا صدقاً إنه بلشوا عن جد يطلعوا على الأمور بغير نظرة كل العالم. And this is part of the transition يلي عم نحكي عنه. ذات الأفراد يلي كان آخر همهم البيئة فجأة صار همهم أكتر. العلاقة بعدها كتير صعبة. القانون تبعنا ليصير فيها الجوفرننس يلي نحن نحلم فيها، إنه نحن مشكلتنا اليوم بلبنان إذا بنفكر إنه البابليك سيكتور هو المشكلة، نحن شخصيا من برأينا البرايفت سيكتور did privatize the gap يلي موجود بالبابليك سيكتور يلي وصلنا لهون. في many services البرايفت سيكتور هو مقصر فيها، استفاد من الوضع ethically على الفراغ اللي نحن عنا اياه، بذات الوقت المحاصصة اللي نحن عنا اياها. in a changing system on a political level هون أكتر محل رح نخلق opportunities لشراكة، لgovernance، لpartnership، مش بس الماركت ومش بس الستيت ومش بس السيفل سوسايتي، في كمان الريسيرش اكاديميز يلي هن رح يكونوا مين بيلر. ومن هيك جبنا سيرتها هون لانه هيدا العمل صار مع وزارة البيئة كمان. وزير البيئة كان directly involved in this. He had something to say, and for once we are seeing people بالخطابات. إذا ملاحظ بخطاب الرئيس الجمهورية تبعنا في محل من المحلات كان قائد جيش حكى عن البيئة. بالخطابات تبع السياسي بلشنا نسمع انه عم يحكوا عن البيئة، بلشوا يحكوا عن sustainability. And whenever we have to tackle this ما في مهرب غير ما يشتغلوا مع البرايفت سيكتور and the other way around كمان. هلا it's a more developed, very layered answer, بس I scratched the surface شوي.
حدا عنده سؤال؟ هلا plastic lab, so one of the material is recycled plastic. So in June you're going to have a workshop with them, those who's going to choose recycled plastic. So please Raf, إذا فيك تحكينا شوي عن your products وكيف تشتغلوا recycled plastic بس تاخذوا فكرة عن the possibilities of the materials.
So في 7 types of plastic. في التايب رح احكيهم هيك شوي سريعا. في القنينة هي مكونة من type 1 which is PET، نحن ما بنعمله recycling. أما الطبقة الكاب تبع it's type 2 HDPE. في التايب 5 and type 4 PP and LDPE. هلا ما حنفوت كتير بالكيميكالز. هن the 3 types يلي at Plastic Lab we recycle, focusing mainly on the HDPE and PP. From it we shred them, wash them, sort them by type لأنه every type of plastic عنده characteristic معين. When we sort them by type and by color بصير قادرين نحن نخلق منهم يا sheets مثل ما انتم شايفين هول الموجودين. The orange thing are sheets of plastic. We can control the pattern, and in this project Plastic Lab in collaboration مع ربيع ونبيل 2 designers we determined what type of pattern depending on the mixing of shreds الموجودين plastic. نحن بيطلع من عنا sheets and beams, and from them we collaborated with designers in places to create table lamps. It's a parametric bench. اشتغلنا من sheets and beams. At Nation Station, the outdoor furniture is all made from recycled plastic. The benches, the planters, tables, stools. It's one of the event اشتغلنا كمان بنطلع bricks. And we're trying to come up with a line, few tables, benches, but we still have our obstacles as Plastic Lab, and we're collaborating with designers to pass through those obstacles. Your job, whenever you come to Plastic Lab, our part is very technical, innovative part, but we're not creators in terms of design creators. واحلى شيء عنا وقت يجي ديزاينر لعنا اول مره ما بيكون عنده فكره بده ينفذها، احلى شيء عنا وقت يجي بده يعرف نحن شو بنعمل. ودائما انجح فيزيتس لديزاينرز وقت يجوا ما بيقولوا لنا بدهم يعملوا شيء، بيجوا بيسالونا شي 100 سؤال، صرنا نعرفهم وصرنا نعرف الديزاينرز. ورامي كان عم بيحكي عن الانكويزيشن اللي عندكم اياها، الكرياتيفيتي ما فيكم تكبروها غير ما تفهموا شو عم تتعاملوا معه. من بعد ما نجاوبكم على كل هالاسئله usually الديزاينر بيختفي اوقات شهر شهرين، في عالم اختفوا كتير سنه وبيرجعوا نهار بدقوا لنا بيقولوا لنا we have a design for you, can you do it? And we do the research with them, we do the development with them, and we try to create the product. The process منه سريع, as I said, we're still innovating, we're still researching within our technical aspect, مش on the design aspect, but we're getting places with some of the products that we built.
Thank you Ralph. So الثيم يلي رايح مع الريسايكل بلاستيك هو design on kit. يعني you're supposed to create spaces and furnitures that are a kit. Okay, so this is what you're going to do in June if you choose to do the workshop with the recycled plastic. Okay, حدا عنده سؤال بعد؟ No? ميرسي كتير رالف. فيكم تنزلوا تحكوا مع رالف ورامي.
Thank you and good luck.
Thank you so much.